You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. Our final episode of the pre-holiday week. And, ordinarily we record on Thursdays. Next Thursday, Christmas Day, we're probably going to be, in food comas of one type or another, and very excited for that. Tyler Maun, Benjamin Hill, Sam Dykstra. Gents, what's going on? How are you?
We're good. Yeah. One week out until the big day, as three Christmas celebrating people here on this podcast. Obviously, some people out there are already kicking off the holiday season with Hanukkah and all that. But that got the wheels spinning there, Tyler. I had never considered what would happen if we had recorded an episode the morning of Christmas, what that would be like. Would it be very short? Would it be filled with merriment? It would be.
I think it depends on what gifts we get.
That is true. And what gifts would we get each other?
Yeah.
Just the level of annoyance of man, I didn't need a tie. I don't know why you got me a tie, Tyler. You didn't have to do that. Unless you were sending me a message, in which case, heard loud and clear. It'd probably be filled with a lot of kids in the background between, Harry and my nephew and nieces and Tyler. You're going to be in Texas this year, right?
No, we're sticking around. So it would be,
okay.
It would just be my dog whining in the background.
A kid of a different sort.
Yeah, exactly. She's probably whining in the background of this episode too. So, that's a positive anyway.
Well, maybe we'll put this, a pin in this until next year, and we'll revisit. But I don't think anybody really wants to be podcasting Christmas morning. So
I don't think anybody's tuning into us either on Christmas Day. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's some weird baseball fan who's like, you know what fix I need today? The Minor League Baseball podcast. And
yeah, maybe
get in touch with us, podcast at MILB.com.
For when you need a break from your regular family.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you just save this episode for next week. If that's what you need, just save this one
you can
later
pause
in the day.
Right now, we're going to have a whole lot of stuff coming up from here. We're only a couple minutes in. Yeah, pause it right now. You can go back to it later on. Seems like a smart thing.
Yeah. But Ben is here. It's been you and me talking for a little bit here. So, Ben, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I am here. I'm always here. It's December 18th is where we're recording this, and today is the holiday party in the MLB offices. So as we are working to the end, there's a lot of preparations for this party tonight. We hold it in the offices themselves, which sounds kind of lame in theory, we just stay in the office for a party. But having done offsite parties, the one in the office is much better. There's just more room to move, and it's kind of fun, a little surreal to have your daily work environment turn into a debaucherous party environment. I mean, the debauchery is fairly minimal because everyone's trying to keep their jobs, but it is a fun atmosphere. I'm looking forward to that tonight. And yes, I am very happy for this to be our final podcast of 2025. I mean, I love you guys, but if we were doing an episode on Christmas, it would just feel like an obligation. And I don't want to be filled with resentment on Christmas or any other day.
Well, we know that so many of you listeners are filled with resentment at having to listen to this podcast, but we thank you for it anyway. And again, as always, you can get in touch with us if you're tuned in for the first time or the 530 whateverth time on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Thanks for hanging out with us. You can, of course, as always, find all of our old episodes wherever you get your podcasts at MILB.com/podcast. And let's kick off this final 2025 edition of the Show Before the Show with our last edition this year of Ben's Biz Banter, brought to you by Circle K, the official convenience store of Minor League Baseball. We're going to go through some awards, some 2025 Minor League Baseball awards, but not like the Milbies, not like Prospect of the Year, Farm System of the Year, whatever. We got some other awards. We got some fun categories. Ben, Sam, and I have come up with some awards that we would like to hand out. Ben is... you can imagine him in his presenter's tuxedo. The floor is yours, Ben.
All right, yeah, we're doing all this year-end stuff. We've done the MILB Awards, just like you said, Tyler. So in this, I was trying to come up with categories that either are unique to this podcast or just ones we haven't talked about before. I don't want to say best so much for this one, but we've shouted out various listeners of the podcast over the year, and I just want to shout out, let's just say best for this moment right now. Best listener, my favorite listener, Bobby Evans from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I think I met him in Fayetteville when I visited there in 2019, but he's been listening to this podcast religiously or quasi-religiously for years. He hits us up in the comments section on Twitter, or he replies to the tweets about a new podcast, always saying, like, an hour and 20-minute podcast? Hell no. And I always say, hell yes, Bobby. And he always listens to it, and I know he enjoys it. And
I did not
really,
know about Bobby. Now I'm a big fan of Bobby too. Thank you, Bobby.
yeah, he's very loyal in listening. He even asked me about our schedule for the podcast over the holidays, and I said, "Don't worry, we'll have one more before the end of the year, that being this episode." So shout out to Bobby Evans. Thank you for listening, and let's use Bobby as a stand-in for all the loyal listeners of this podcast, of which there are many. I don't have an exact number, but we hear from them and really appreciate everyone. Goes without saying who takes the time week after week to listen to us, and we hope we remain interesting to you and are not too self-indulgent and boring and all the bad things you want. But why am I saying bad things? We're an awesome podcast, and you're awesome for listening to us.
All right, I'll take it next here for one of my categories, which is coolest on-field moment. I took some time while Ben was chattering there to change into my tux. So I will open up the envelope on coolest on-field moment that I witnessed personally. And we're going to go back to spring breakout, back in the spring in March, one of the spring breakout games between the Red Sox and Rays in Port Charlotte, Florida. And this was a game filled with top prospects: Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, Christian Campbell, Carson Williams on the Rays side. And one thing that stood out from that game is everybody homered. Everybody who was a very interesting player in that game homered. But one homer particularly stood out to me, and that was Roman Anthony's spring breakout homer. For this reason, Port Charlotte, not a huge spring training facility. It was pretty well attended game, but there was one fan in particular who I'm guessing was a Rays fan, who was chanting "overrated" at Roman Anthony. And Roman Anthony at the time was the number 2 overall prospect in baseball, behind only Roki Sasaki. Certainly had a claim to be the number 1 overall prospect in baseball, given what we've seen since from Sasaki, but also the fact that he is a hitter. Hitters are a little bit more of a sure thing than pitchers who can break down, as Sasaki did this year. We didn't hear from Anthony in terms of, like, did he hear that? Was he thinking about it? But he hit an absolute tank. I swear it was like, as the guy finished saying "overrated," it was a long, long home run on top of the roof in right field. There's like a Rays office facility / their clubhouse area beyond the field and beyond the fence in right. And it was just gone. And everybody in the stadium knew it was gone. And I was muttering to myself, like, I wouldn't say that about Roman Anthony. And I thought I was saying it loud enough so that the guy could hear me. I don't know if that was true, but Roman Anthony certainly got all of it. And I just love that moment because it was, we talk about these guys and sometimes you're hyping up prospects who don't work out. That's just the nature of prospecting. But for Anthony to prove it with one swing like that was amazing to see in person. It was certainly something that a lot of people were talking about, both in Florida and beyond, the further I got into spring training. And then we got to see Roman Anthony do really well in the major leagues this year. Obviously battled some injuries, but is looking like a potential really impact piece for the Boston Red Sox moving forward. So to see his year start out that way was really, really special. So I'll throw it all the way back to March for me. Tyler, what do you got next?
Yeah, mine's very self-serving. But the best finish of a 2025 minor league baseball game had to be the last minor league baseball game of 2025, the AAA National Championship game. I was lucky enough with Jim Callis to be on the call for that on MLB Network. But the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp rallying after blowing a big lead in the top of the 9th inning to the Las Vegas Aviators at Las Vegas Ballpark, but as the visiting team. Las Vegas was not playing as the home team that night. Jacksonville rallied to make sure that they would not squander that AAA National Championship. They walked off on a home run in a wild finish. Still one of the funniest moments of my broadcasting career is the ball clearing the fence in right field, and the gate to the bullpen out in right center field spilling open, and the entire relief corps for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp spilling out onto the field to celebrate before the ball had even landed.
They are hanging on every pitch in each of these dugouts. And now a swing and a fly ball high and deep out to right center. Deep off the bat of Barry. And Jacob Barry has walked off with a AAA National Championship win for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Oh my goodness. A guy who hit just 8 home runs the entire season for Jacksonville obliterates a AAA National Championship winning shot to right center. And the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp are your 2025 AAA National Champions.
That was a whole bunch of fun. And, something that was not a moment that I really expected to be that crazy or go that viral. And that's, the cliche. Sometimes you'll go to a ballpark, see something you've never seen before. That's sort of what it felt like in the AAA National Championship game in 2025. So big final congrats to the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp for giving us something fun to talk about on the last day of the minor league baseball season, and to the Las Vegas Aviators as well. Sorry you didn't get the title on your home field, but a very, very fun night in Vegas.
Yeah, well, I would tell people to check out a year-end crooked numbers roundup that will be on MLB.com and MILB.com later this holiday season. And spoiler alert, it does include that AAA National Championship game because, as Tyler mentioned, just the sheer bizarre aspect of the season ending with a walk-off home run against a team in their home ballpark. So crooked numbers, year-end recap coming soon, and a lot of great weird plays there. For my next category, I'm going to go with the best post-game concert I saw. Because often when I go to a ballpark on these road trips, if it's a Friday or Saturday night game, there's sometimes, or a Thursday game, there's sometimes post-game concerts. Usually it's, I don't want to knock it, but, Jimmy Buffett covers or just cover bands in general, and they're good for what they are. But in late April, I went to see the Reading Fightin' Phils in Reading, Pennsylvania, and they had a band Drew and the Blue playing. And I'd actually seen Drew and the Blue before, opening for John Spencer, formerly of the John Spencer Blues Explosion, at a show in Lancaster, PA. And I was like, oh yeah, I've seen these guys before. And I was just, it's not like super heavy music, but more rock and roll energy than you usually see at a minor league ballpark. And I would say that Reading, Pennsylvania has more rock and roll energy than your typical minor league team. But this is a 3-piece, Drew and the Blue. And Drew, I presume, is the front man. He stands up while playing the drums, and the drums are almost like tilted out toward the crowd. So he's like standing up and hitting the drums that are facing the crowd, and it's a unique thing, kind of rockabilly, old style rock and roll. And yeah, a little louder and edgier and more heavy hitting than I usually see at a minor league ballpark. And I like teams that don't just do the cover band route or the solo acoustic strummer or things of that nature. So support your local music scene, no matter where you are in America, if you're a minor league team. And it'd be cool to see a more bands of that nature, more rock and roll, different genres, and just collaborations with the artists in your community, and not just the tried and true crowd pleasers.
Yeah, I like that idea of like bringing rock back singularly through minor league baseball. That's how we're gonna get rock back to the masses. All right, my next one is best prospect storyline, and this one we've kind of bounced around. Like I did spring breakout, Tyler, you did end of the minor league season. I'm going to go to the end of the major league season with Trey Yesavage in the postseason for the Toronto Blue Jays. Trey Yesavage, much has been made about him this year, starting out the year in single Dunedin, ending the year literally pitching in Game 7 of the World Series. But it was just so fascinating to follow the ebbs and flows of his season, obviously starting out in Dunedin. And I said much has been made of it, but the fact that he started out there was basically just to get him in some warm weather coming out of East Carolina as a first round pick in 2024, quickly moved out of Dunedin in the Florida State League, went to High A Vancouver. By the time he made AAA Buffalo, we were trying to figure out games of the day, right? Free game of the day for MLB TV. And Trey Yesavage was somebody who we thought a lot of Blue Jays fans would want to see. So I was trying to find out when his next start was. he was being moved to the bullpen because the Blue Jays were thinking like, well, this is an arm we can use. And then to see him make actual starts in the postseason after that was phenomenal. To see that first outing against the Yankees, 11 strikeouts, no hits in 5 1/3 innings. That Game 5 start in the World Series. You'd think about like, oh, this is a big game against the Dodgers. How is this kid going to perform? Striking out 12 in that game, only giving up 1 run on 3 hits in 7 innings. He was the Game 1 starter of the World Series for the Blue Jays. Part of that is just how things lined up, right? But you would probably, in an ideal situation, have Kevin Gausman as your Game 1 starter. But it still shows how much confidence the Blue Jays and John Schneider had in this rookie arm and the way his stuff played with that really over-the-top delivery, that super high release point. He only has 3 pitches. It's that riding four-seam fastball, that slider that moves a little bit arm side in a way it shouldn't, and that splitter that, as many people say, it falls from the sky. To see him dominate the postseason like he did, finishing, with over 6 different appearances with a 3.58 ERA and 39 strikeouts in 27 2/3 innings. It's a special case, and I kind of want to keep it special. I also wonder, are more teams going to trust their arms? Like if you have a young guy who you think the stuff really plays, give him the ball. Maybe you'll have the next Trey Savage. Cam Schlittler with the Yankees also proved that he could dominate as a rookie. So it's a fascinating case. He's basically now the pitching version of Randy Arozarena, that exceptional rookie performance in the postseason that we quoted from 2020. So now I'm interested to see how this affects how pitchers are used, especially rookie pitchers, young arms in the postseason moving forward. Or is Trey Savage special? For right now, he was special, and that's good enough, and then worthy of a de facto award here on the show before the show. Tyler, what do you got next?
I got another one that fans of the Show Before the Show podcast will more enjoy than anyone else. And that is, for me, the top promo of 2025, which was, of course, the Show Before the Show night at the home of the Somerset Patriots. We got a chance to go out in June and hang out with our friends in Somerset, spearheaded by Dave Merrick. To bring us out and let us act like we were important people at a minor league ballpark. And that was very fun. That's something that we had talked about for so long. And Somerset rolled out the red carpet for us. That just could not have been cool. I find myself thinking about that day on a pretty regular basis because that was, of all of the things that we've done on this podcast, that might be my favorite, that we got a chance to go out there and compete in between inning contests and sing the 7th inning stretch with Giancarlo Stanton looking at us like he was going to beat us all with his bat. It was a very fun day. That is a day that is like that's a landmark day in my baseball memory bank. I will never let that one go.
Well, Tyler, you're setting up, my segues pretty well because I did have that as potentially something to talk about as well. But regardless, I have on my newsletter, the Baseball Traveler, and there will be a corresponding article as well. I circle back here to end the year with a little blog style recap of that night that'll be in the newsletter because of course we did the podcast episode on it, but I didn't, we had a lot of good photos and just other things to share. So that will be out in the newsletter actually as we speak, probably as we're recording this. It is hitting inboxes everywhere. Subscribe to the Baseball Traveler newsletter. And Tyler, of course, it goes without saying, and Sam, it goes without saying, that I included both photos of Sam on the ground in between inning contests. He was knocked off the pony in the pony hop race, and he was knocked down on the ground following the dizzy bat race. So
Knocked off is a very passive way of putting that. At least for the pony race.
There was
the bat. I can only blame myself. That is purely me losing equilibrium. There was an active participant.
I don't know.
Me being knocked off. There should be somebody who's more the focus of that sentence. Isn't that right, Tyler?
I don't know anything that you're talking about here, and frankly, to suggest otherwise might necessitate me contacting my legal team, Sam. So tread
I
lightly.
didn't say any names. I'm just asking for your comment on the record. That's all I'm asking for.
I think you had a surprising fall, and sometimes those things happen.
If you want to plead the fifth, that is your right as an American. You go right on ahead.
I will do that. I would like to assert my Fifth Amendment privilege, as they say.
The court of public opinion is not adherent to the Constitution. I'll just put it that way.
Anyway, that night was excellent, and also it was another great boost for my ego to have Ben Hill night with the Tri-City Dust Devils later in the season. But my actual category here is the best best non-ballpark meal I had, because on these road trips you get to try local restaurants. Between me being gluten-free and just the schedule of being on the road, I often don't get to try as many things as I'd like. But it was when I was in Tri-City, which is Pasco, Kennewick, and Richland in the state of Washington, that I went to a diner with Eric the Peanut Guy, the Sage Port Grill. And I was like, that was one of my favorite restaurants of the year. A diner, a bit of a biker diner, I guess, because that area of Washington is along various biker routes, motorcycles. I call them bikers. But just a really creative menu. I didn't drink there, but a lot of strong drinks that you can, start your morning off right or wrong, depending on the scenario. Just a lot of personality. And I ordered a sausage patty with melted pepper jack and eggs, hash browns, and eggs over easy, and topped with jalapenos. And I was like, this is the kind of breakfast I can get behind at a diner. And also, I don't really celebrate chains very often, but when I was in Eastlake, Ohio, near the Lake County Captains, I was looking for a place to have lunch before going to the ballpark. I was on my way to a Mission Barbecue, which is a chain I've been to several times on the road. And on the way, I was like, wait, what's this place? BB Bop. Let me check that out. And it turned out to be a chain, like Korean-inspired rice bowls, and everything on the menu was gluten-free. Not in this kind of like, hey, gluten-free people come here, but it just happened. They just made it all gluten-free, but it worked for all people as well. It didn't feel like one of those places that was just catering to gluten-free people. So to get a comparatively healthy, because I've been eating too much barbecue and unhealthy food on the road, at a reasonably priced chain restaurant, BB Bop. I'm going to be keeping an eye out for those on the road later. I just looked them up. There's about 75 locations nationwide. As much as I want to support local businesses, sometimes a good chain on the road is good to see as well, because you know what you're getting, and sometimes time is scarce.
All right, so for my next award, I'm going to go with best team, which is something that actually was involved with like the minor league awards that we handed out at the end of the year. But I just have to take this opportunity to give one more shout out to the West Michigan Whitecaps. Given the exceptional season they had and just the amount of like fun facts that it gets involved with diving into the Whitecaps in their 2025 year, they had the best winning percentage, which was 702. They won more than 70% of their games since the 1997 West Michigan Whitecaps. Like, that fact is just amazing to me, that nobody else had done this in 28 years. And yet the last team to do it, of all the minor league teams to do it, is also from West Michigan. Their final record was 92-39. Now they get thrown in the blender of the Midwest League playoffs, and because those are such short series, and we know anything can happen in baseball, and that team was different in the second half. It didn't have Max Clark. It didn't have Kevin McGonigal. It didn't have Josue Briseño. Anything could have happened with that team during that stretch. No, they won all 4 of their games and won the Midwest League postseason, as it felt like they should have. So the fact that all that happened to West Michigan this year, I think they were also named the organization of the year in the minor league awards, not the awards we hand out as, MLB Pipeline and MILB.com staff, but like minor league baseball writ large handed out an award to the Whitecaps because of attendance gains and all these other big things that they did this year beyond just the field to play. But everything went the Whitecaps' way this summer. And it was just really cool to dive into that and see that happen organically as the year went along, and see them finish just as strong as they began the year. So that's best team for me. Tyler, you got anything else?
No. I was gonna go best retirement of 2025, and for that it's Ghosts of the Miners, which we bade farewell to this year. But I don't know if Ghost of the Miners is fully retired. I think there's a chance that one day we see the resurrection of Ghost of the Miners, even if it's just in a limited capacity. But we bade farewell, at least temporarily, to Ghost of the Miners. So I'm not going to add that as my final one officially, but an unofficial big hug for Josh Jackson and Ghost of the Miners, because that every week when I edit the podcast now, I'm like, man, I kind of miss editing Ghosts because it was so much fun. But we might get back there. So I'm not ready yet to put it on the full, the permanent emeritus award status. But that's it gets an honorary.
Absolutely. And Tyler, you keep setting me up because, I'll close with this. We could go on and keep making up categories, but I'm going to go with, my best coworkers of 2025, and I don't want to leave anyone out, but Josh Jackson would certainly be among them. This was a season that had a lot of challenges for me internally, a lot of more things to navigate than usual, some frustrations. And through it all, I was just happy that I had coworkers that I trusted and who were always there to help. Chief among them, Josh Jackson. I'd say one of the reasons he retired from Ghost of the Miners is not just because of me per se, but because he has so many other responsibilities. Of course, one of them is helping to manage a diva like me. So maybe I am responsible for Ghost of the Miners being no longer. I hope it comes back. But shout out to Josh Jackson for producing my newsletter, being my coordinator with the video segments, just being my man on the ground and always lending an ear, a proverbial ear. He still has both his ears. He hasn't actually given me any of them. Really appreciate that as well. Shout out to Braden Botts, a Major League Baseball live content coordinator slash, we call those LCCs. But he traveled with me on a couple road trips this year. He had some travel snafus along the way where he had to extend some of the trips, and we just kept on rolling together. And I'm so used to being alone on the road and rolling with Braden, a young guy. He's like, 22, 23, but, really talented behind the camera, helped direct our Circle K, commercials where I was making appearances at the Circle K. Shout out to Circle K for sponsoring the Baseball Traveler and the work I do all year. So shout out to Braden Botts, shout out to Gerard Gilberto for helping to produce some of those videos. And of course, shout out to you guys. Sam Dykstra, he's a guy I can just ask any question about, like anything operationally in MLB. He's like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. It's uncanny. I resent him half of the time because I'm like, how does Sam know everything? So I get mad, but I'm really appreciative of it as well. Yeah, but he's always here to help, and I appreciate having Sam around, and you as well. Obviously, Tyler, we don't get to see each other as much, but producing this podcast from afar, week after week, and always a friendly face when we do the episode, and hopefully there will be a show before the show night at a ballpark in 2026. We're going to start lobbying, I think, again pretty soon, and be pretty shameless about it. So shout out to my coworkers in general for helping me get through this year, and a lot of people I appreciate.
I wish I had a good segue for this one, but I'm going to say it anyways because I just wanted to get it out there just for all the kids listening and people who hope to become a minor league journalist someday. Best teachable moment of 2025. And it's about the way in which you get into a pool on national television. Be careful of how many people in baseball might be watching MLB Network on a day-to-day basis, and we'll be flooding your inbox, both your phone, your Slack messages, your DMs, and just bringing it up at random times where, hey, were you the guy in the pool in Frisco? And it's like, yes, that was me. I jumped in the pool. I was happy to do it. It was Lazy River in Frisco. It's one of the coolest ballpark features, Ben. You've been in there. That's on a baseball card.
Yeah, I'm sure it was on a baseball card in that Lazy River. And Sam, I loved seeing you have the Lazy River treatment and all the comments you got online. My favorite one being, why is your skin the same color as the concrete?
There were many such comments. Many people are saying, also comparing me to a certain vice president. That was fun and nearly got me to shave my entire head, including my face. Didn't happen, but it's still in consideration. But yeah, no, listen, minor league baseball, like this podcast, like so much of what we do day in and day out, it's meant to be a fun activity. And that's what I was hoping to highlight that day is like, hey, you can't do this in basketball. You can't do this in hockey. You can't do this in football of just like hang out in the lazy river and watch a game. You can do it in Frisco, Texas on a very nice, hot July day. And so I think, getting to show that side of the game, so much of my job is diving into prospects and diving into stats and diving into, all these things behind the scenes. But to show something like that, I think was really fun.
Yeah, sometimes it's diving into a pool.
Sometimes it's diving into a pool. Yeah. I think the teachable moment here, I was going to say like, hey, maybe throw on a shirt if you're going to do this on TV, but now I've come around and just be like, just do it.
Yeah, just go for it.
Just go for
100%.
it. Yeah. If you think like it's going to be a funny thing and it's going to be something that gets people talking, as long as you're not fully embarrassing yourself, and I'm not that embarrassed, just do it. Just have fun with it. Make more fun things out in the world. That's what minor league baseball is about. That's what sports should be about. So for one day in Frisco, I contributed just a small bit of that, and it'll probably chase me until the day I die, but that's okay.
You are a far braver man than me. I actually put on more clothing to go to a pool or the beach or anything. I don't need to be seen in any way. I wear like a a 1920 swimming costume, and then I put like a lot of big heavy robes over myself. I'm humiliated by my own physique. So I really very much admired your bravery, Sam Dykstra, in Frisco. And yeah, the 2025 minor league baseball calendar in the books. The winter meetings, of course, last week, now in the books behind us. So we've entered kind of the quiet zone for this 2025 off season, where most everybody, teams, front offices, everybody else kind of goes radio silent from now until the start of the next calendar year. And for all minor league baseball teams and front office workers and full-time staff and game day staff and everything else, no one earns an off-season relaxation stretch of a couple of weeks more than minor league baseball people. So enjoy it. Enjoy the kickoff to 2026. And yeah, as Ben noted, we will be lobbying for a night in our honor at a ballpark someplace soon, because we're very humble like that. So that is a look back on the 2025 minor league baseball campaign. And coming up, we are going to talk just some quick on-field stuff as we head into our final couple of weeks of the year. And then we're back to wrap things up with this week's edition, the final 2025 edition of Name That Dude. It's all ahead on this week's episode of the show before the show. Well, as we get close to the last couple of weeks of the season, on-field news obviously dries up for the most part, but we do have a couple of things to discuss. Sam Dykstra on board to do so. Sam, we got a trade, a couple of names, swapping spots. Give us the breakdown of Jake Bennett for Luis Perales.
Yeah, this is a fascinating trade between the Nationals and Red Sox, which is the first time those teams have traded with each other since the Kyle Schwarber deal a few years back at the trade deadline. Give you an idea of how long it's been. But of course, Paul Taboni, now the president of baseball operations in Washington, D.C., came from the Red Sox organization. So if ever there was a time for these two teams to hook up, it now seems like it. And this is just a fascinating trade to me because it's pitching prospect for pitching prospect. This isn't a major leaguer. Neither side gets a major league arm, at least straight away. And it's coming at it from two different perspectives. Luis Perales goes from the Red Sox to the Nationals. Jake Bennett goes from the Nationals to the Red Sox. The Nationals here in Luis Perales get a pretty high upside arm. He was somebody who pitched in the Arizona Fall League. Actually, both of these guys pitched in the Arizona Fall League this year, so I got to see them both. Perales is only 22 years old, was added to the 40-man a couple years back, but was coming off Tommy John surgery. He had Tommy John surgery in 2024, came back very late in the year, got some extra time in the Fall League, was touching 101 down there. So the velocity was certainly back, but the command absolutely was not. He walked, I believe, 18.3% of his batters faced. He also struck out 31.7%. So the swing and miss stuff was there, and he had a low 90s cutter that looked really good that he leaned on a lot in the Fall League. But he had a 10.32 ERA. Take it however you want. It was 6 starts that he had. Not a huge sample by any means. And again, coming off such a long layoff, you kind of just want to see where the stuff is. But there's pretty severe relief risk here, right? But there's also the upside of maybe a number 2 starter with that velocity, with that really good cutter, with that he's got a slider and a splitter as well. The splitter could be an above average pitch. So there's some interesting pieces here. For Perales, it's just, is he going to throw enough strikes? But the Nationals right now should be buying all the upside that they can get, right? This is not a team that, as currently constituted, is going to be a big contender in 2026. So if there's an opportunity to go get an arm that could be as big as a number 2 in your rotation moving forward, go out and get him. Jake Bennett does not have that upside, but he has a significant floor, I would say, coming back from his own Tommy John surgery this year. He pitched at various levels of the national system, came back in the AFL. He had a 2.27 ERA across 3 levels in 19 games, 18 starts. He led the AFL in strikeouts with 25. He was second in innings pitched with 20 of those as well. The results were really good for Jake Bennett. He's 6'6", has tremendous extension, around 7 feet of extension. So even though his fastball, the velocity is kind of average, he throws both a 4-seamer and a sinker around 92 to 95. They're not necessarily special, but because he's getting so close to batters, that can help it play up. He's got a really, really good changeup that plays off of that. Still trying to find what can be his best breaking pitch. He kind of let go of a curveball. It's more of a slider now. That's at best average. I would probably put a 45 grade on it now if I was redoing our rankings and our ratings. But Jake Bennett, somebody who has that command. He came back and had the control pretty much right away in a way that Luis Perales doesn't. How much can he make that fastball changeup work? We'll see. That's going to be the difference between him being a number 4 and a number 5 starter in Boston. But you look at who the Red Sox are trying to acquire right now. It's a lot of really big arms, and I mean big, literally in stature. Peyton Tolley has talked about this in terms of Connolly Early, who I believe is 6'3". They're trying to get him to add weight. Tim Healy of the Boston Globe wrote about this because they're trying to get, quote, mooses on the mound. And Jake Bennett being 6'6" certainly looks like a moose. So Craig Breslow clearly has a type that he is chasing. It's big guys with good extension. How can they make that work? And I think Jake Bennett is closer to the major leagues right now than Luis Perales is. You throw him in that starting pitching mix for Boston, that makes it a little deeper. And he was just added to the 40-man now, so he has options remaining. Luis Perales has already burned 2 options. It's potential for him to add another because he's been injured for a good amount of that time. We'll see how things go on that. But it's a little more imminent that he has to make the major leagues. The Nationals, if push comes to shove, are going to have that space much more than the Red Sox would. So I hesitate to call this a challenge trade, but I think it's one team trading floor for ceiling and the other one trading ceiling for floor, given that where they are in their competitive cycles right now. So I like Luis Perales more than Jake Bennett. I think it's a good buying opportunity for the Nats. I'm sure they would love to keep Jake Bennett, but if they can get somebody that, like I said, could be a mid-rotation starter for them, that's a huge, huge get. And the fact that Taboni is aware of Luis Perales, has seen him develop over the years. It's not going to be a learning curve to bring him into the organization. And, they're going to have so many different development apparatuses, I should say, next year. It doesn't necessarily, it's going to be a learning curve for everybody, but at least Perales is going to be somewhat aware of how things used to work with the Red Sox, and I don't think it's going to be that much different in DC now. So just a fascinating trade, but I like it for both sides. And we'll check in 5 years. Maybe Perales doesn't meet that ceiling. Maybe Jake Bennett ends up being a number 3 instead of a number 4, and the Red Sox squeeze a breaking pitch out of him that gets to be at least average. But interesting stuff for just a pitching prospect for pitching prospect deal.
All right, Sam. As we get closer to the start of 2026, we are getting commitments on a regular basis for the 2026 World Baseball Classic, and we've got some really interesting ones for the United States that have come up just in recent days. And for our purposes, most interesting is probably Mets right-hander Nolan McLain, who has been announced as a commit to the 2026 WBC roster. Nolan McLain is still rated as the number 11 overall prospect in baseball and the top prospect in the Mets organization, but of course made his big league debut in 2025. This is really cool because we don't often see big young prospects committing and pitching for USA Baseball or for, the DR or for some of the other countries that have such a glut of veteran talent. It's not quite as surprising with some other countries that, some of the younger guys are going to be among the biggest stars. And I'm thinking specifically, of course, about Australia. Travis Bazzana, the first pick in the 2024 draft, is going to play for his home country. That's been a long time dream of his. But for USA Baseball, this is something sort of new. And this pitching staff, man, that has always been the thing that everybody has knocked about USA Baseball and the way that they have built rosters for the World Baseball Classic. This pitching staff is looking preposterous. Obviously, it's been a while, but Paul Skeens committed a few months ago to pitch on this staff. Just as of today, Tarek Skubal has now announced that he as well will pitch for Team USA. The addition in the relief corps of Mason Miller is a big one. So there are all kinds of different pitching options for USA Baseball that are going to be super fun to watch. But it's really cool seeing Nolan McLain get this opportunity as a guy who is not yet an established major leaguer or has not yet graduated from prospect status.
Yeah, I think it's more about the fact that we still have a prospect in this game. I wouldn't say he's not as an established major leaguer. He made 8 starts, had a 2.06 ERA, 57 strikeouts. He was the de facto ace for the Mets down the stretch.
Yeah.
So I think that was his audition here. I think if he played out the string at Syracuse, we're not talking about him as an option. But this is definitely one of those cases, and something the Mets did with him down the stretch is that you trust the stuff. I mean, his spin rates are going to be the best in the WBC because they are arguably the best in the world. That sweeper, that curveball, that other traditional slide, like he's got so many pitches to play with. It's why he's the top pitching prospect in baseball. It's why he was so effective early on, with the Mets. I'm fascinated to see how they're going to use him. You mentioned the starting options that they have now, Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens, and that's a debate I would love to have. I even posted this on Blue Sky earlier. Like, if you have a championship game, who's starting in that game and who's coming out of the bullpen like Ohtani in 2023? I think I lean Skubal starting and Skeens out of the bullpen. But, when you have Mason Miller as somebody immediately said, well, Mason Miller's pitching the ninth. I'm like, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. You want options anyways, and they're going to have plenty of options. I wonder if they use McLean in a relief role, just because of how spinny the stuff is. It's going to be you come in facing some of these other arms, Joe Ryan, who's so fastball dominant, and then you're just seeing stuff diving all over the place, going multiple directions. And McLean, that's going to really screw up some hitters from all around the world, especially if you go up against a team that hasn't seen McLean before. There might be somebody on the DR who's seen him. I haven't gone through all the rosters, everybody he's faced, but he goes against somebody from Japan who hasn't seen this level of spinny stuff. That would be so fascinating to see. So I love Mark DeRosa trusting the young arm and just being like, hey, we're chasing stuff here. You have some of the best stuff in the world. Let's make it work. It's a little reminiscent to me, of when Bobby Witt Jr. was on the roster in 23, and he was coming off of his rookie season, so he wasn't prospect eligible at the time.
Right.
But it was just like, man, you're fast. You can hit the ball hard. You can play really good defense. That's something we can use at the end of the roster. I think McLean's going to have a bigger role. That role is just to be determined right now. So we're going to have to sit here and wait and see, do they get other starters? Are Joe Ryan and Clay Holmes and McLean the three starters behind Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens? We'll have to wait and see here, but I really like the position Team USA is in right now between the guys they've added to the lineup to this point, but the way they continue to build out this pitching staff. And I think more pitchers are going to be interested now when you have Skeens and Skubal as your 1-2, and they are the two best pitchers in the world right now. I think it's pretty safe to say, willing to do it. What's holding you back? Unless there's an injury or there's something personal. We've even seen Mookie Betts talk about he has a third child along the way. He won't be playing for Team USA. That's a perfectly legit reason. But otherwise, there's a lot of momentum in making sure you're at the WBC if you are at a certain all-star level. And there are others out there who haven't been announced yet. I don't know about this. Tyler, you're much more clued into this than I am. But things are setting up really, really well for Team USA now, but they have to actually win the games. So is there anybody else? You talk about Travis Bazzana, Owen Casey. We haven't heard Jonah Tong's name officially confirmed for Canada yet, but you have to think if the Mets are allowing McLean, they would probably allow Jonah Tong to pitch as well. Any other prospects you're looking forward to that have either been confirmed or who could be?
Talking about that Canada side, Denzel Clark is another guy. Edouard Julien is another guy. The Naylor brothers, it appears, are going to be taking part. This is a mixture of recent prospects, guys who have graduated, guys who are still prospects. The thing that I think is coolest right now, and this is going to be the coolest thing going forward, but for young guys like a Nolan McLean, like a Denzel Clark, like a Julio Rodriguez, who's committed to play for the Dominican Republic. These guys have grown up with the World Baseball Classic, and that was the knock on it in 2006 and 2009 and 2013. But now the athletes that are major leaguers, the athletes that are top prospects, have grown up watching this thing since they were little. And so this is a big development that it's gone from, in doing some research for the book, been reading a whole bunch of stories of, the initial reaction of players and front office members and all that to the World Baseball Classic. And Gary Sheffield gave an interview a long time ago right around the announcement of the first WBC, where he basically said, like, I want nothing to do with that thing. Why am I going to go out, risk getting hurt, screwing over my team? I think it's a dumb idea, blah, blah, blah. I would guess Gary Sheffield's kids probably feel very different about the WBC. And that's not a knock on Gary Sheffield. At the time, there were way more people felt that way than felt the other way. But what is so cool now is the amount of these young players who grew up seeing that. Travis Bazzana is the classic example of a guy who grew up in a non-baseball country, but watched his nation perform on that stage of the WBC. And that was his goal. As much as making the major leagues, being on a World Baseball Classic team to represent Australia was his goal. Harry Ford, who played for Great Britain in the 2022 qualifiers and the 2023 Classic, via a source, I know that Harry Ford is interested in being back with Team GB this year. Now, obviously, being traded from the Mariners to the Nationals throws some wrinkles into that, but another top prospect type of guy who could be in the mix. So it's cool learning about these potential stars and what they either have done in the past on the international level or what they would like to accomplish in the international level is really cool. Even just looking up and down this USA Baseball roster, the amount of guys who maybe haven't played in a WBC yet, but will be playing in the WBC this year and have a whole lot of experience from USA Baseball is really cool. Bryce Terang is committed to play for that squad. Gunnar Henderson, obviously Kyle Schwarber was on the team 3 years ago. Will Smith, a returnee as well, but guys who have played, whether it's at the collegiate national team, U18, U15, whatever level for USA Baseball, that's really neat. So I think we've entered this era where the WBC is a feather in the cap for so many players, and that is really cool because it's such a far cry from what it was even 10 years ago.
Yeah, you almost wonder. I mean, we're in that era right now of like talking about the Hall of Fame. We talked about it with the committees and all that kind of stuff earlier, and votes are coming in now. At a certain point, that's going to be on somebody's plaque.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
I mean, not like Shohei Ohtani will be a debatable one, but if the conversation, for somebody like Ichiro, it's, two-time World Baseball Classic champion. For Shohei Ohtani, if they win again this time around, it'll be the same thing. That is such a cool element to have been created as part of the lore of a baseball player's career. And yeah, I think that is a tremendous point, Sam.
Yeah, and I'm honestly, I'm looking it up now to see if that is on Ichiro's plaque. I don't see it right now. Most of it talks about obviously his incredible hit totals and the way he electrified the Mariners to 116 win season. Anyways, so much to talk about with Ichiro. It's impossible to put it on a plaque, but I do think we're going to get to a point where some heroics will be mentioned because it's such a big event, because people clearly care about it. The 2023 version was the best version we've seen yet. 2026 is really shaping up to be a right alongside it.
So stay locked. Roster announcements are coming fast and furious. There's a story today about Carlos Beltran with Puerto Rico trying to recruit Riley Green. Riley Green's mom from Puerto Rico has Puerto Rican family ties. So a potential that Riley Green could be on that team. Obviously, Javier Baez is on that team, somebody that Riley Green is very familiar with. So that would make that PR squad a little bit more interesting. But we will see. That, to me, has been the coolest thing as it pertains to the WBC for next year, is these roster announcements and how this continuous drip feed of WBC news over the last year or so has been really, really cool. And we're closing in just 4 months away, or they're actually 3 months away now from the World Baseball Classic in 2026. So pretty great stuff. And you can, of course, follow along, as always, at MLB.com. And coming up, we will step aside for our final timeout, bringing on back with Benjamin Hill and the last Name That Dude of the year. That's after the break on this week's episode of The Show Before the Show.
Raise the runners! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Saying goodbye for the last time in 2025 here on the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. Again, to all of you who have hung out with us all year long, all decade long, thanks so much. We love it every week. And before we get out of here, it is time for the final 2025 edition of Name That Dude, in which one of us picks a dude from seasons past in baseball, and the other two have to guess who that dude is. And this week, Sam Dykstra and I shall be guessing the dude, as Benjamin Hill is the dude knower. And Ben, the floor is yours again.
I got a dude, the last dude of 2025. This dude was born in the year of our Lord 1972 in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was drafted as a teenager, age 17, out of high school, by the Cleveland Indians. Started his career right after the draft in 1990, Gulf Coast League Indians, and a little bit time with the Burlington Indians in the Appy League, playing at that great old ballpark that was built in Danville, Virginia, disassembled, shipped by train to Burlington, and rebuilt. But that's neither here nor there. He moved on to the South Atlantic League the next year in Columbus, Georgia in 1991. 1992, Kinston, the Kinston Indians in the High A Carolina League, another full season there. 1993, another full season, just methodically working his way up the ladder in the Indian system. A full season at the age of 20 with what was then the Canton Akron Indians in the Eastern League. 1994, keeps climbing, the International League, Charlotte Knights. Plays a full season there. 1995. Now Cleveland's AAA affiliate is Buffalo. Spends a lot of the season there. Plays 2 games for the Indians. Then ends up in the Cardinals organization. Plays for both AAA Louisville and then 39 games with the St. Louis Cardinals. 1996, split between AAA Louisville and the St. Louis Cardinals. 1997, mostly with the Cardinals and a little bit of time in the Cardinals minor league system. 1998, starts the year with the Cardinals and then goes back to Cleveland for 107 games, his first semblance of a full season in the major leagues. But he doesn't end that season in Cleveland. They get rid of him again, and he goes to the Seattle Mariners at the end of the 1998 season for 1999, 2000, and 2001. By this point, he's a regular. 2002, a full season with the San Francisco Giants. 2003, 4, and 5, and 6 with the Phillies. And then in that 2006 season, he's traded to the Brewers to end his career. At the age of 33, after breaking into professional baseball at the age of 17, he was a position player. Who I remember him as a third baseman. He also played some second base and left field. I remember him as a third baseman. Did play very solid major league career, 1,400 games, 123 home runs, 1,239 hits, career batting average of 257, OPS of 716.
I think I have a guess.
Yeah, who do you got?
Does he have a father who is a major league manager?
Yes. I mean, he was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is actually a bit
David
of a clue
Bell.
in and of itself. There you go.
David Bell.
Yep.
Yep. David Bell, Buddy Bell's son. Yeah. David Bell. Man, I had sort of forgotten about David Bell. He was a good player for a while. And it's so weird because you think of that 2001 Mariners team and, winning 116 games and all of the legendary, that was Ichiro's rookie year. And that was, Mike Cameron was a stud on that team. And, the different guys who were around that roster who you're like, I think probably the most notable one that year was Brett Boone because, Brett Boone put up 8.8 WAR that year apparently and drove in 141. They had 5 All-Stars in that lineup that year. Edgar Martinez, of course, is the 38-year-old DH who still put up a 966 OPS. Ichiro won Rookie of the Year and MVP. But yeah, David Bell's like one of the guys that I don't really remember as much from those teams, but he was a regular for that squad. Yeah, the Reds Phillies combo. I sort of rung the bell. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was looking for a Christmas guy, and then I couldn't find an obvious one, and then somehow like the song "Silver Bells" popped into my head, and I was like, "Oh,
Jingle bells.
Carol of the Bells, Jingle Bells. Yeah.
oh yeah, I guess Jingle Bells." Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good,
Silver Bells It's a completely fine song.
For some reason, that's the one that popped in my head. Silver Bells. Yeah.
David Bells.
David Bell.
Well, David Bell, wherever you are, we certainly hope that the holiday season is going well for you. And that's a good one to end the 2025 editions of the Show Before the Show podcast. And yeah, that'll do it. We're off for the next couple weeks, but we will return to you fearlessly as ever to lead you boldly into the 27th year of the 21st century. Something, I don't know. Coming up after the holidays, we wish you all of the best, whatever you celebrate, however you celebrate it, with friends and family, your pals of the Show Before the Show podcast. We love you. And we thank you, as always, for tuning in. For Sam Dykstra, for Benjamin Hill, for Josh Jackson, for all the rest, my name is Tyler Maughan. Happy holidays, Happy New Year. We'll talk to you in 2026.